Hello. Welcome to this very special episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. So for this episode, just in a small series that we're doing surrounding serious topics, this episode we're not having an audience like we had the last episode. We didn't have an audience. We're focusing on a one-on-one type of interpersonal conversation about sensitive topics that we can't have anywhere else. So this specific topic is about slut shaming. Yes, the convoluted, controversial narrative surrounding issues impacting, mostly women in society. But looking at it on a different angle. With this small section of our season, I'm committed to putting myself in the role of the oppressor and putting myself in the role of the oppressed, arguing about these issues with nuance and clarity. So some of the things you're going to hear, take in consideration that it's to provide a level of breadth to the narrative and conversation so we can understand these issues. These are not, necessarily all of my opinions or thoughts on these issues. It's very much so linear. So for example, when I begin the first segment and a half, when I'm in the oppressive role, taking consideration those are not my actual viewpoints, but taking into the understanding of what has been said in the media, what has been said by many others who do take this position, so we can better understand that viewpoint, so we can tackle it. So let's go. I am in the role of the oppressor when it comes to slut shaming, aka I'm the slut shamer. I don't understand slut shaming. Like, let's be real. Now all of a sudden, women are starting to complain about how men greet them and talk about them and discuss issues. Now if a man has an opinion about how a woman dresses or how she conducts herself, we're now sexist. It's now slut shaming that I think that some women who wear those see-through dresses shouldn't be wearing that. Now all of a sudden, when a man has an opinion about how he wants his woman or his daughter or other women that he cares about, how they dress, it's now become a problem. So, I was just the other day thinking about, what Rev Run said on the show. He said, dress, how you want to be addressed. If you're out here wearing a short skirt, and short shorts, you can't get mad that a man looks at that, because at the end of the day, I feel that you want that kind of attention. Like, why would you wear something like that if you didn't want men to look at it and say something about it? And then they feel like it's sexual harassment if a man whistles or compliment them on what's very obviously they want you to look at, right? Let's get real here. This whole slut shaming stuff, because I tell a girl, that you're getting called out your name because of how you're dressing. Let's just be real here. Amber Rose, okay, yes, the stripper, the girl who's out there who dated all the rappers like Kanye and Wiz Khalifa's baby mama. Yeah, she now is trying to go out on this mission about talking against slut shaming. And how she defines slut shaming is men basically degrading women who carry themselves the way they want to be. Well, I'm confused because, I have a sister. And, my sister isn't a stripper. My sister doesn't wear short skirts. My sister, my cousin and her cousin, they were taught to be ladies. A real woman don't dress like that, because a real woman knows that, something can happen to her. When you look at all these college rape cases out here and girls getting drugged and stuff like that, you got to ask yourself the question, like, what did you do to put yourself in a position like that? If you're drinking and hanging around guys and they're drunk and things like that, of course things might happen that you may not want. So are you going to just try to act as though you're the victim? You're trying to, say that you're innocent? I think it's a little bit more complex than that. When you really think about it, when you're out here dressed in a certain kind of way and talking a certain kind of way and trying to be like the rest of the girls in the music videos, I think, look what happens to how those girls in the videos get treated. I know y'all saw Tip Drill. I know y'all saw some of the Luke Campbell videos back in the day. Let's get real. Those girls knew what they were getting themselves into. They saw that money getting thrown at them. Did they complain when they got that check? I seriously doubt it. So now all of a sudden, men come in the picture, and now there's women out here, mad because a couple of them, got put in check, or a couple of them stopped getting the check. Now they want to accuse everybody else. I mean, look at like Bill Cosby. You think all of those women are innocent? I mean, come on. They knew what they were getting themselves into, because at the end of the day, like I said, good women that know how to take care of themselves and handle their business, they're never going to be in a situation where they could be raped. They're never going to be in a situation where they're going to, make a mistake, because boys are just going to be boys. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, guys are going to be guys. And I just tell these girls, like my man Steve Harvey said, think like a man, but still act like a lady. Because at the end of the day, you got to know what men be thinking, you know what I'm saying, before you get out there and try to do that. A lot of women out here want to put the man pants on, and act like they are, so, can handle it. But, that's nonsense, because then when they get name called and they get picked on, or someone talk about what they got on and how they dress, then all of a sudden they want to play a victim. Then they want to say someone's sexist. How am I sexist? I love women. I think women are great. I love my mother. I love my sister. How can I be sexist? And how can I be sexist if I'm telling you how to dress right so that you don't get disrespected? I just think it's a double standard when it comes out here. A lot of these dudes out here, some of these brothers, good men out here in suits, men like Steve Harvey, respectable men, they're just trying to save their daughters and save their sisters and cousins from stuff happening. People act like if you walk outside and you dress a certain kind of way, of course that's going to happen. I had a homegirl the other day. She was walking out. It was springtime or whatever. The weather's all good, everything. The sun is finally coming out. The winter going down. She got on these tight booty shorts. Now, when she walked out the door, I looked at her and I said to her, wearing those short, them shorts that short like that, you going to get some attention. And if one of them boys pop you on the butt or something, don't be complaining, because you asked for it going out looking like that. And then she tried to say, well, they don't have a right to. I'm looking like, well, then why are you dressing like that? And she says it's because of, it makes her feel good. Well, you need to check your standards, because only certain types of women dress like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be a certain type of person to put yourself in situations like that. Now, everyone everywhere now is talking about, male chauvinism. It's the political races going on right now. You got Hillary Clinton, you got Bernie Sanders, you got all these political candidates, and now everybody who isn't supporting Hillary is now considered sexist. Like, how is it considered sexist because I don't want to vote for her? Maybe she just not honest. Has anyone thought about that? Maybe she just don't tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she just don't keep it 100. I mean, it's not because she's a woman. I mean, her husband, honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like as a wife, when she was a wife to Bill Clinton, she didn't handle her presidential duties as a first lady. You know what I'm saying? So what makes you think she's going to be able to handle the White House? But that's not being sexist. I mean, that's not being sexist. I'm just saying everybody has their roles. And all I'm saying is that women are different from men. And men should, women shouldn't be trying to put themselves in a position where they think they're the man, because then if something happens to them, they all of a sudden want to become a woman all of a sudden. All of a sudden, equality of the genders, equality of sexes only matters, until someone got paid a check. Then all of a sudden, when you got to pay the check, you got to pay the bill, you got to foot the bill, then all of a sudden, all that equality nonsense gets thrown out the window. You know what I'm saying? And then they get mad when we tell them, what they should wear, how they should conduct themselves, because we're trying to save them. Because we know how these men out here are, some of these guys, some of the brothers out here, they're dogs. But, we're trying to get them away. We're trying to get the girls out the way, from that kind of stuff. So, I don't think it's slut shaming. I don't think it's no such thing as slut shaming. If I'm telling a girl, how to conduct herself and how to save herself, you know what I'm saying? And, we were kings and queens, in the Nubian and Africa. Some people think I'm a hotep. I ain't hotep. I'm just saying, we were kings and queens back in the day. So, you can't tell me that you dressing like a queen when you out here showing all your goods like a concubine. Come on. You know what I'm saying? There's certain types of women out there, you know what I'm saying? There's respectable women and there's undignified women. And I don't think, we need to be trying to, create these new words like slut shaming. What's slut shaming? Really, think about it. Of course sluts should be shamed. That's what, I don't get it. If it's called slut shaming, Do we want our daughters and our people to be sluts? No. So I think at the end of the day, it's about, taking, the bull by the horns. We got to protect our daughters. We got to protect the women out here, and we got to make sure they protecting themselves and dressing right. Because, I just wish, we go back to the old days. You know what I mean? Women knew a place back in the day. You know what I'm saying? She knew her place back in the day. It wasn't a problem to cook a meal. It wasn't a problem. The old-fashioned days, there was nowadays there's so much sex, out here. All the girls want to dress up and wear all these clothes and, all this nude stuff. Every girl goes nude and they want to make it a front page cover. Since when was all these girls want to get naked? And then they get mad when dudes, be hot, cat calling them. They want that kind of attention. You know what I'm saying? That's just not right. You're not going to make a good wife and a good girlfriend if you want to go out here and show all your goods to other men. You know what I'm saying? That's just unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? We need to get back into the old days. We need to get back into the good old days where, ladies had class. Ladies would cross their legs. Ladies wasn't trying to hang out with the boys all the time. You know what I'm saying? Ladies, knew how to sit at the table and, act right. Nowadays, everybody want to, just forget their order in the pecking order. They just want to just completely, just lose control. I'm not for that. You know what I'm saying? A real progressive, you know what I'm saying? I'm a progressive. I think, women should have rights, but I don't think that women should just have anybody's rights. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Gotta feel me. So that's, one perspective, in the slut shamer lens. That's one perspective that a lot of men in America thinks about a lot of these issues. But I'm here to challenge that today, in this moment, and reverse this. Ready? So you as a man want to tell women what to do with their bodies because at the end of the day, you think that their bodies belong to you. I get it. You care about their safety, right? Because at the end of the day, like I guess Rev 1 says, you dress how you want to be addressed. Well, that's funny because if you really believe that the genders were equal, there are so many men out here that act like they can't put on a suit and tie to work. Some people can't even coordinate right. There's some dudes out here that think sagging is cool. But if a sister don't want to talk to them, then they say she's uptight. Oh, so now all of a sudden, when a woman is, having high standards about what kind of guy she wants to talk to, it's not cool. But it's cool for a man to turn around and look at a girl who dresses a certain way and judge her. Double standards, right? Oh, but wait a minute. You say it's not sexist. Do you know what sexism is? Sexism is when you think that men are higher than women. It's when you think that you matter more than a woman does, and since you believe you have certain rights. So it's funny how many times men like to question the sexual partners that women have. But how many times do you ever question the number of sexual partners that you ever had? Do you ever think to wonder that when you're saying you're just a guy, that you're giving yourself a pass for all the bad boy things you used to do back in the day? Oh, but wait a minute. It's crazy to assume that women just like you crave sex. Because the way the media spins it, they will act as though women are nuns until a man comes in and then makes a rude holy awakening. But again, that's only if you still do not believe that you're not sexist. So let's just believe, like you said, that you believe that women are equal to men. If you believe in that, then you will believe in the fact that, to be quite honest, let's check the double standards. So it's okay for men to tell women their place and how to dress and how to act and how to conduct themselves to protect themselves. But what are women protecting themselves from, right? Oh, that's right. Men. Women are being told by other men how to protect themselves from other men. So if you're thinking about this logically, right, if men are the ones that are being the culprits, then who's the actual problem? It can't be women if the problem was men and the men are telling them to. So then they're protecting themselves from men. So then you wonder why women are scared of men. Because as men, we've created a culture where we keep trying to tell them to be scared of us based on the way they dress. Because for some reason, men seem not to act like they can control themselves. Because they think that every time they see a woman, they have to whistle at them. Because we forget that Women are humans and it's weird. Have you ever been whistled by a woman before on a regular basis? Have you ever, as a man, went to your job every day and been told, hey, you look good, daddy. Ooh, come over here. Ooh, you want my number? Have you ever had that? Oh, that's right, because any woman who's ever done it to you, she'll be considered a whore. But every man that do it to a woman, what are they considered? Oh, that's right, a gentleman. Because we call it chivalry when a man goes out their way to constantly talk to a woman, even if she doesn't want it. It's not harassment to men when men go out their way to consistently pursue them because they think that every woman that they look at wants them. If that was the case, there wouldn't be that many single men out here, right? Oh, but wait a minute. Let's take this back a little bit. So every time, what makes you think that when you go out your way to say hi to a woman that does not respond back, that you felt entitled? What made you feel as though you were entitled to go up to that woman? Oh, you was just being nice? So then if she said hi back, why don't you want more? Isn't it normal that when fathers raise their young boys or they raise their daughters, they say, watch out for those young men? But the joke was, don't you ever think to yourself that you was one of those young men? So what does that say about you before you became older? Why does it matter to only protect women when it's your mother, your daughter, and your nieces and people that relate to you? What about the other women outside of those circles? Exactly. Because the problem with slut shaming in society is that most men do not realize when they're doing it. Because they don't realize that they have these biases that are against women. Because at the end of the day, the whole narrative around protecting women has always been about protecting women against men. It's never been about just letting women be themselves without men having anything to do about it. Because at the end of the day, most men do not realize that in some cases or not, they are not necessarily smarter or better than women. I mean, when you look at most of the stats that's set up in society, most women are pursuing their degrees faster than men. But of course, let's take into account that when it comes to situations of people of color, a lot of black men can't pursue their education because a lot of black men are in prison. But then the reality goes a little bit haywire because when we start talking about situations pertaining to rape and sexual assault, we act as though we cannot hold black men accountable even if they're accused because we're so rigid on keeping the idea that all black men must be innocent because of the white supremacy in our society. So the pastors that act up, the child care providers, the supervisors, the men in our society that abuse their power, the ones that are being accused of doing a little bit too much, a little bit too soon, we know who they are. Those individuals get a held above approach because of the fact that we as men have not finally accepted that we're holding a double standard. The double standard is that some of us do screw up. Some of us do make mistakes and we should hold them accountable. Why is it that someone like R. Kelly can still have a career in 2016, still making new music, still having all these great things, but Janet Jackson in one instant had to take a pause in her career because a man took off the bezel of her bra and her boob got exposed on the Super Bowl for only a small split few seconds. We can hold double standards and let men like R. Kelly, who's been accused of child pornography and has settled many cases, we can allow big celebrities like that to get away, but we can't allow the women to. I mean, if you look at Philadelphia with people like Kathleen Kane, right? A woman who engaged in pornographic emails, her whole reputation is about to go down the drain. But there's 3 prosecutors right now in Seth Williams' department that's being given a pass because of some stuff that was so old. So they get to go away and get to continue to have a job, stay employed, and kind of, for the most part, keep getting paid and not have their reputation thrown all the way down the drain. See, it's those type of double standards that creates a good boy system. So brothers are always going to have each other's back, but we never have our sisters' back on anything. Because a lot of times when we're thinking about how we're treating women, we feel as though they belong to us to some degree. There's a possession that men have over women that in many ways is unhealthy. I mean, it's one thing to support somebody, be an advocate, but it's one thing to control every aspect. And when we're on aspects, let's talk about consent. No means no. We get that. But some of you all forget that at the end of the day, it's more than just no means no. It's really about getting a yes. And it's about getting a yes and consent in the sense that it's not being compromised. Drinking excessively, doing drugs is not a way to seduce someone. If you have to go out your way to drug someone into having sex with you, don't you think that's rape? Doesn't that sound like rape? A nightcap, too many drinks, all of a sudden you wake up in bed with somebody and then you don't think that that might be a little bit problematic? Those type of double standards concern me. Because the real reality of the part is that most of the energy surrounding rape is victim blaming. And when I mean victim blaming, you're thinking to yourself, who's the victim in the situation? The victim is the person who was raped, the person that's being sexually harassed. We keep constantly telling them how to dress and how to act to protect themselves, but why haven't we talked to men about these issues? Why haven't we told men what consent really means? Why haven't we taken time to tell men that it's not okay to bother a girl multiple times? You know why we don't do that? Because we feel a guilt within ourselves. Because some of us have done those things. So we feel like if we chastise another individual on it, it's going to make us feel as though, we're making an indictment on ourselves. Because if we do not check the young men that's coming in our society, then the cycle is going to continue. And I'm not trying to say all men are bad. I'm not trying to say all men are rapists. But I am saying that some are. And if we don't hold them accountable, if we don't check the men in our lives and our systems, our brothers, our cousins, that we know can do some things that's a little bit off, then we're not going to fix the problem. And we can't start by trying to control what women wear, because whether a woman wears a long dress down to her ankle, or whether she wears a high-fitted booty short for a spring party that's in hot heat, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't dictate, and it shouldn't matter what we choose to do and how we choose to control the situation. We can't dictate and try to, over-embellish, our masculinity. To say when we make a mistake, it's because we're a man, So when a woman makes a mistake, what does that make her? Not a woman. Should women be perfect all the time? Should we always create this double standard where women can make no mistakes, but men can always make mistakes? Anytime a man slips up, they get a comeback most of the time. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's domestic violence disputes. I mean, look at the Ray Rice situation. Here's this NFL player that we saw on an elevator, domestically beat his partner. And basically is still playing in the league, getting a chance, a comeback, getting opportunities to talk. I mean, you look at Chris Brown, right? Chris Brown, we know, hit Rihanna multiple times. And guess what happened? What did we do? We victim blamed. We said, what did Rihanna do to cause that happen to herself? What did she do? She must have done something to cause that. So whatever the case may have been, we find ways to always attack women when they say they're victims. But when black men have issues that affect them, we don't take the time out to call them out on their bluff. We never take the time to say, when men, are victims of issues, we don't do that. When you're looking at movements like Say Her Name and Black Lives Matter, that came from the fact that there were women that were fighting for injustice at the forefront. Black Lives Matter was funded and started by 3 queer women of color. 3 women decide to fight for our rights as men, to live in a society, black men to live in society. And what's interesting is that despite all that, a lot of us never talked about the women. We leave them out the conversations, and yet we expect to be owed something. We got to really reframe how we treat women in society. We have to reframe how we look at them. If we consider them as equal to them as they are to us, if we consider them equal, then we must stop making excuses. We must stop having double standards. We must stop trying to teach women to avoid rape, but teach our young men to avoid raping them. We have to change the entire dynamic where we can make people more comfortable in society. Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue to see these issues happen, and more men that should be locked up and put in jail for these issues will continue to repeat them. So I took some time to reflect on this issue. This is a very serious issue. It's something that a lot of people just won't say out loud. If I thought when I did this episode and I did this show, in this small series for this show about getting these perspectives, I could not get them. People cannot live with themselves to speak out loud and basically tell people, what they thought about, when it came to these double standards. People couldn't take it out themselves and say it out loud. These are issues that we have deep inside us because of the cultural stigma we have. When we look at the TV programs you watch, we look at the magazine covers we watch, we look at the Maxim covers, the Playboy magazines, all these things we look at, we're in a society where there is this pressure on women to act a certain way, dress a certain way, look a certain way for beauty politics, but that's through a male gaze. It's a male gaze that drives the conversation. And then when these issues happen and, things happen because of that hypersexualization of women in society, men then don't want to take responsibility for the role they play in it. We don't take a responsibility for the way in which we carry out these issues in the public sphere. We don't talk about them enough because of the fact that there's a level of embarrassment. There's a lot of, desire and power and position and sexism in society, but a lot of times when it's time for us to check our privilege, our male privilege in society, the benefits that we get to being a man, the fact that we don't have to wonder if we're gonna be, too sassy or too aggressive if we decide to apply for a job. These are the issues that we don't think about because we don't have to think about them. But we can't ignore the issues that women deal with and face on a regular basis so that we can feel superior. We can't. And that's why, as a feminist, as a person who believes in equality of all sexes, I check my privilege on a regular basis. I stop asking what can women do to prevent issues. I start asking myself that men can prevent domestic violence. Men can prevent rape culture. Because at the end of the day, we are creating a society and spaces where these things happen because we own most of the equity, the jobs, the wealth in society. So it owes us a part for us to shift, our power positions in order to maintain equality. Thank you.